You will often hear thought leaders, business leaders, marketers talk about the new normal that we are facing today. There are changes happening right now in our world, in our economy. So, in today's interview, what if we could take a deeper look into our own transformation, our awakening, and the opportunity to live empowered lives at this time? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rise and Be Rich. This is a platform where we talk about high growth marketing for our coaches, consultants, wellness services, and small businesses. But we also talk about leadership, personal growth, creating purposeful careers and businesses, and living fulfilled, empowered lives. So today we wanted to talk about our own awakening and empowerment through this special COVID times that we're all going through in lockdown. And we're really fortunate to have a very special guest today, and she is Dr. Taposhri Ganguly. She holds a PhD in statistics and works as a statistician at a management consultancy in London. And she's worked with statistics across fields like psychiatry, neuroscience, finance, risk and reliability, and at present is building human behavioral models. So Tapashri is also a dedicated student of theosophy and also believes that there is no religion higher than truth and lives a life dedicated to serve humanity. So I'm really excited to get into this deep conversation with her today. Welcome, Tapashri, to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was a lovely, lovely introduction and very well put. I loved it. For a minute, I thought, wow, I've done so much.
Haven't we all? Haven't we all?
Yes, we all. It's always like when you're done with it, you don't see when you're doing it. Once you're done, you're like, I did that.
And then when you're reading it fast over a podcast, because, I have this 20-minute segment, so I'm going, fast. And it's, you feel like, wow, I've covered so much. But I'm going to start actually with asking you to give a little bit of your background, because there's just so many entrepreneurs from different stages of their journey here, and especially talk also about the forum that you've recently created, which is, I found that fascinating. So it would be great to get a little bit of background on, both sides of your statistics and the other side, D.
Yeah, he is completely non-statistical. Well, yeah. So basically, I'm trained in statistics. It was one of those times, when I just graduated in statistics with statistics honors, and I really didn't know what to do with this. Where everybody else was getting into MBA and all these degrees, I was like, no, I want to understand this subject really well, and this is something I really need to understand. I don't know whether I understand or not, but I need to. So that need is always the thing that is pushing me in. So anything, one way led to the other, and I ended up with a PhD. And my PhD was in a very niche field of statistics, which is expert judgment, where it's all about people and the beliefs and everything to do with the Bayesian statistics. So that got me interested in people in a different way, in the way that they, specify their data, in the way they say things which are not true, and that uncertainty and everything around that. And it was fascinating. So in the meantime, I also worked with statistical models, and you need data everywhere. You have data everywhere. You need models. So I ended up working in the field of psychiatry, moved into working with neuroscience, doing my postdoc there, and then when risk and reliability is a very, financial things. These are all like part of the statistical bigger picture where you really model risk. And most people who know statistics have definitely in their lives worked with finance and all these portfolios because you have to manage risks and stuff. Yeah. So that went through. And then finally I ended up in an organization which is more to do with how do you maximize people's potential. Like people have potential, but sometimes they don't know what potential they have. They are stuck in wrong jobs. They continue doing that for various reasons, but not knowing what their true potential is. So I was very, very fortunate to get this job that I am in right now. And I build human brain behavior models, which is pretty much like, well, you are good at that, but then you can also do this. You can really transform. You can really grow from one level to the other level, but not in this particular setting. Something needs to change about it. Yeah. So we inform people of those strategic changes. And it's a fascinating work that I do. Sometimes I feel I'm going to be fired because I'm saying things which are, which people don't hear very often. But I have a lovely, lovely team to work with and a great organization to work with. And while all this was happening, everything was fine. Suddenly the lockdown happened and COVID happened. And I came back to London, to a lockdown London. I was in India for a bit, came back to lockdown London. And I just called my friend and said, well, let's restart Tea. Now, Tea is a name that was given to me by one of my maternal uncles. And he was like, this is a beautiful name. And I was like, amazing. If ever in life I do anything outside statistics, I'm going to call it Tea.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you a very, very vain change that has happened. So I basically had this idea of connecting people,
Mm-hmm.
connecting people in thoughts, getting together, like having a social chit chat and everything. I believed people have different skills that they don't want to talk about sometimes. Or that they do, but they're not confident about it. Like somebody is a great baker, but she only bakes for her family. But when she invites very close friends, she would do it, but she would not go all out with it. So I was like, you know what, you can really do this baking session, for people and teach them and all that. So I wanted to get people out of their comfort zone. That was at the back, kind of an idea I had the back of my mind. So I launched Tea in 2018. And at that point, everybody turned around and said, what a name, Ghee. It means ghee. Who is going to ever look into it? Your name is so wrong, right? And I was like, no, Ghee means something more. Ghee is intellect. Ghee stands for wisdom. Ghee stands for a lot of other things in Sanskrit. But people laughed at it. This was 2018, pre-lockdown. 2020, right? When I said, let's restart Ghee, everybody got into it. Everybody was like, this is beautiful. I have got compliments like, this is a beautiful name. This means so much. And I did not have to make that effort to tell people what Tea means or what it is. It took its own form of a spiritual journey of every individual that we bring on, every guest that comes on, and we discuss their journey. And we all know that we are deeply spiritual, just having this human experience, right?
Yeah.
So humanity is not the forefront of what we are. We are all spiritual beings. And this transformation, this journey, I thought, and everyone who came on Tea, I met incredible individuals, and they all spoke about it without inhibitions. Everybody had a very similar journey in isolation, self-doubting, all these things, but they pushed through, they kept at it. Something was there that was driving them. And it's that drive that was fascinating, because we all have experienced that at some stages in our lives. And some of us have doubted it, has put them, rationalized it, put it back. Some of us have gone full blown with it to see, well, where does it lead me to? So that's where this whole platform came. And I thought, I'm just going to do 1 or 2 sessions and it's okay. Who's going to come? Who am I? I'm a nobody. But turns out being a nobody is a blessing, a gift. Because people come to you not because of who you are on the outside, but what you are in the inside, because it's the inside that connects to the other people's inside. So if I'm really an individual whose heart is not clean, I don't have a clear intent or a clean intent, I do not think I'll be able to connect to anybody in this world. So my connections come, right from my heart, from that expansive state where I am, which is why I've had the individuals who have come and graced the entire platform.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, one of the things that's happening with COVID is that it's kind of like split into 2 groups of people and I keep meeting them. There's one group that, we are the COVID is actually pushing everyone's buttons at different levels. People have different levels of comfort. Then there's careers, there's jobs, there's the economy, and then there's, the health and all sorts of issues. But then there's one group that is caught up in the fear of it. And then there's another group that's completely reinterpreting their life right now. And so what you're saying is, suddenly everybody understands Tea, because, there's a group of people who just stepped out and reviewed their life, and they're back on it again. And this time they're rebuilding their life in a completely different way. And it's a fabulous phenomenon to see, because it's happening to so many people. So one of the things, as somebody who's on, looking at both sides, right? You're looking at what's happening in the market, what's, how the world is moving. And then you have seeing these, transformations too. How do you balance what's happening in the outside world with the personal growth, personal journey, and understanding who we are and how we are affecting our own reality. That would be an interesting thing to, from your perspective, to
Yeah, that's
understand.
a very beautiful question. Very beautiful. Basically, I see it for a longest period of my life, before I think even pre 2019, I used to see everything from the outside, like what's happening on the outside has got an impact on how I should be. And that completely changed, because what I'm from the inside needs to come on the outside. It's the other way around. So the dynamic is like how I see the world is completely dependent on who I am at the core. So
Yes.
if I am, as I said, if I look at myself as a vessel or like a glass, for example, and if I'm unclean, no matter how much of clean water I'm going to put inside me, if the inside of it is unclean, the water, I'm not going to drink it, right? So what is the inside? What is the inner lining? And that has an impact on the outside. The more I shine bright from the inside, the more I'm going to give the light. I'm able to give the light on the outside. And that took a while. I wasn't like this, probably I was, but I wasn't so vocal about it. Up until 2018, I was always like self-guessing, doubting myself. I was in all that, and undergoing that entire field. Like, I'm not good enough. Who's going to listen to me? People will fall asleep. But strangely, now people don't fall asleep, because even the statistics that I do, the work in the world, in the marketing world and in the world out there, we have all seen the capitalism. We are products of capitalism in a way. It's, we are product of those structures. And what happens next? So, you earn money. Say let's take an example of a house. You start with a one bedroom apartment. You go into a bungalow. You go into a bigger house. You go into a bigger house. There has to be an end to it. You're not going to take that house with you, when you leave this planet, right? And then you want to do some social work, and the social work comes on the side. But then that is also something you're doing, but you're coming back to this beautiful bungalow of yours, which you're admiring. But how long can you admire it? There is a restriction over there. Now, if the same situation, if you are developing your inside, and you're going on working on the inside, and through your insights, you're helping a lot of other people, giving them the platform to voice their opinions, lending them your voice of truth, I think you are literally empowering everybody. And we all are exactly connected. We are all dependent on each other. Each one of us has to make that contribution, but we have to make that contribution knowing who we are. We can't make that contribution from who we are on the outside, because that's very transient, that's impermanent. But what is it that we are born with? The vessel, the body that we are born with, we live inside this. So our first aim should always be about, and this is what I think, should always be about being true to what the core is. Like, who am I? And we all have several doubts. When you start this journey, you will have several, unsettling questions to answer, but you have to answer them for yourself.
Yeah.
And when I look at it from the outside, on the statistical perspective, all the markets going down, recession, UK has, it's in recession, deep recession, and jobs and everything. I don't have that fear. The reason I don't have that fear is because I know I'm being taken care of. If I'm put on this planet Earth, there's a reason for it. And I need to find that purpose. And that purpose is not something that the world outside is going to tell me. The outside is going to be a reflection of what I am from the inside. So if I'm fearful, everything on the outside is going to worry me. But if I'm really strong, if I'm still, nothing on the outside is going to worry me. So that's how I work this out.
It's very interesting, because when you look at things statistically, or if you look at history, some of the best businesses, the top entrepreneurs, they actually come through crisis. Some of the biggest companies happen through crisis. It's actually that's what puts you in that question, when you're questioning yourself, what's really happening and how can I contribute? Who am I? What do I want in my life? What do I want to build? And then things start shifting. And, for me, getting into business has always been a spiritual path. That it was very clear right from the start. And what has brought me is a sense of understanding of not just how I want to live my life and how I want it to play out, but also what I want to contribute to the world as well. So it's kind of, it's that interplay. So when we're seeing these people now move through this time, as you're, saying that it's actually pushing people to ask those questions. I think that's where so many of us are at. And at that point, you have that choice, so you can either move towards empowerment. I was looking at something the other day, and it said something like, we have about 582 million entrepreneurs in the world right now. I mean, that's half a billion entrepreneurs, and growing.
Yeah.
So many people taking on, taking charge of their own skills, their, how they want to live their life, as how they want to, make money for themselves, and what they want to contribute. So when you're looking at that, that's a massive movement. And I think that statistically it is showing up. I mean, we are seeing figures like this, and historically we have all this data that points towards these massive big growth of companies right post sort of a crisis. And then there's all this susceptibility to stress and anxiety and all of that happening. So just for yourself, and just for the entrepreneur community, because this is mainly, the audience is entrepreneurs, how are there any tools or tips and things that you do to empower yourself to get back on track and to keep focused on this growth versus this anxiety and stress?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes in. It's always a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and to stay in that position of neutrality where you're not judging what is coming. You're just you're just reacting to it. Sometimes you're drawing things in unknowingly. You draw things which are not right for you, and they're not going to last. They're going to go anyway. So how do you then create healthy boundaries? These are all the knowledge that you need, to the power to take those decisions. Basically, we all have to work on. I have to work on. So I definitely take time out and get into a very practice of yoga very religiously. I don't miss it. Even if it's like 50 breaths of fire, I have to do it. I have to really take that little time, even if it's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of a day. I mean, that much at least I can do. I mean, that much, I think even 5 minutes everyone can take out. And just do something so that you stay throughout the day in the position of neutrality, because otherwise things can happen. It's like big waves, if you imagine, of anxiety coming, and then you can't really battle those waves. You have to learn how to flow with them, or and then to ride them and let it go. But knowing that it's going to go is the knowledge. It's not just an intellectual knowledge. It's a knowledge that comes from experience, from beliefs, from your own understanding and perceptions, and lots of other things. And that knowledge is very, very strong. And how do you get to that knowledge of knowing that, okay, I'm feeling this way, and letting it flow? Because you are a channel here, so you need to let everything flow through you. If you want to hold on to something very tightly, you are literally stopping the flow of other things that are coming as well.
Don't hold on tight to things. Yeah, very important.
Yes. And that is an ability that comes with time. So I mean, you start doing yoga tomorrow, it won't happen. Some people do different practices, Tai Chi, different kinds of go into self-inquiry, take time out for walks in the nature. And we have this nature, which is something that we are all grateful for, which is something we take to align ourselves. So that alignment is very important. I do yoga. Some people meditate, like you yourself meditate. You writing is your meditation. And there are some people who just plainly do meditation with different kind of things and different activities. But I think that few minutes of stillness in a day is very, very important, where you get into that reflective space and you get into that new space of neutrality, where you're just going to make this promise to yourself that I'm just going to flow with the day. Because so it's also like the more you give in, the more you get out. It's like abundance is there, we are all blessed abundantly. We just need to sit back and enjoy it. The thing is, we are worried about it. Oh my God, what's going to happen? It's all going to be okay. If it's not okay, it's never going to end. So we need to know that, and we need to know that from our hearts. So in that expanse.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really I think you're being part of a panelist in Praram. It's so important to have this, countering all of the big, massive growth we're seeing in digital? Because we're going to talk a lot about the digital explosion. Everybody's going online, and there's all this, you're constantly stimulated digitally, right? So you're always doing this. So this, which is just a complete contrast to that, but it is essential, because the more the world is growing, it's sort of the number of stimulus you get in a day, that's just growing dramatically in our lives.
And there's so much of data, there's so much of noise. Like in statistics, we have this whole signal processing, approach where you have to literally draw the signal out from the noise. And, you always are working on building better models. But the same principle is in real life as well. There's so much of noise. Now, how do you know what is important to you? Now, what might be important to you in a given day might not be important to me on that day, or, even in that given span of time. So how do I then extract that information? And that is a skill that every human being needs to work on. And that doesn't come from the outside. No school, no college, no university is going to teach you that. It's experience plus your knowledge, plus your wisdom, plus your failures, which are your biggest teachers, all the bad mistakes that we all make. Everything together is going to nurture this core, and you got to take decisions from here, from your heart. Your intent has to be very clear and pure.
Yeah. Very well said. Well, I could keep talking to you. We had that long conversation the other day as well, but it's a podcast, and I've got to, wrap it up. But before I go, Taposhri, where can people find more of your work?
See, that's the thing. I don't market it at all.
But I'll tell you what, you can find if you go and search for it, even on Facebook, I think you will be able to get to your page.
Yeah,
and I think you have a website too, don't you? You have a website with the
website yet. I'm in talks with somebody to say, like, okay, we need a website. And that actually came after I chatted to you. I'm like, we need to have a website. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe at some point you'll give me more tips on how to be there for people to find us. So for right now, it's only a Facebook page.
All right. Awesome. So go look for that. And thank you so much for joining us. And, for those who want to explore her work, just go look for her name. You will find lots of information on Google on her. That's how I got to know her first. So thank you so much, Taposhri. Thank you for joining us today.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
And for all of you who are either part of our inner circle, or if you are not and you're missing out all the free trainings, just join us at www.ahanalara.com/hyping packages. That's ahanalara.com/hyping packages, all one word. And this will allow you to download our guide on how to monetize your expertise, create high growth hyping packages for any niche market. And then take you to our forum where you get all the free trainings and all of the lovely interviews. So go and join that, and I'll see you once again on another episode of Rise and Be Rich. Bye for now.
Thank you.